if I could actually pull up my screen that just disappeared. Okay, I'd like to call the Plan Commission meeting to order on Tuesday, July 27th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. Janelle, could you please take roll call?
Bertle.
Here.
Dashke.
Here.
Ward.
Here.
Shumway.
Here.
Gretzmacher.
Here.
Schmitz.
Here.
And Nate Bell will be a little bit late.
Thank you. Comments, correspondence, and concerns from the public. Is there anybody joining us tonight that would like to address the Plan Commission on a non-agenda issue?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay. All right. Approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Okay. Motion by Schmitz, second by Ward. All those in favor respond with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Motion by Zashke.
Second.
Second by Ward. Any further discussion? All those in favor respond with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Item number 1, public hearing on the request from Donald and Trudy Cox, Christian McWinney, and Emmeline Cox that village officials approve a proposed certified survey map that will split parcel number 1810008312822K, which has been assigned an address of 10554 Fieldcrest Road, and parcel number 18126000001L1 into 2 separate buildable lots. Bo?
Yep, this one's pretty straightforward based off of the agenda posting. This is a request to turn this property into 2 RS1 single-family residential lots. Both lots do meet the RS1 lot size requirements and setbacks to become buildable lots. The CSM was included in the packet for review. This is the public hearing, so if you are ready, you can begin.
Okay, at 5:33, I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there anybody joining us that would like to speak for or against the splitting of these parcels?
I'm not getting any updates.
Okay, at 5:34, I will close the public hearing. Is there any Plan Commission discussion? Otherwise, a motion would be entertained.
I just had a question, and I didn't see it in looking in the in our code. Sister Bay doesn't have a provision the same way the county does against what we would call a flag lot. Am I correct?
Correct.
As far as I know, you are correct.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Move to approve.
Motion by Schmitz, second by Ward. All those in favor?
That was Gretzmacher.
Oh, I'm so sorry. All those in favor respond with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Item number 2, discussion regarding the preliminary plat that was submitted by James Selinsky for Orchards Corner condominium, which development will be constructed on parcel number 18142400002 that has been assigned an address of 10592 Highway 57, as well as discussion regarding the terms of the proposed development agreement for the previously mentioned property and review of ordinance number 283081721 that authorized the issuance of a related conditional use permit. Bo?
Yep, so this is just a continuation off of the last meeting. We did receive materials in the office. I know that some plan commission members did want to review them. They've been in the office since that last meeting. We do have the development agreement in the packet as well as the condo documents for plan commission to review. The idea is that if the plan commission feels comfortable moving forward, they can recommend everything to board at one meeting.
Okay. As I was reviewing the documentation, there was something that in my mind was missing from the conditions that we had talked about in the past and that are in the development agreement. So I went back over the last 4 months of minutes and looked for that conversation, and either we had it and it didn't make it into the minutes, or we never had it. And that is similar to what the Plan Commission has been doing with conditional use permits for second dwelling units. The minutes reflect that we never had the conversation on not allowing rentals out of these units. Can anybody remember that we had that conversation?
No.
No.
And so I don't know, when it's such a hot topic, how I miss that, whatever. So I would like to suggest that we incorporate that condition into the development agreement, that these are residential condominiums that cannot be rented out through VRBO or Airbnb or something of that nature. Does anybody, other Plan Commission members, have comments, thoughts, differences of opinion than I?
I agree with your position, Denise. Sounds solid to me.
So what's,
Well, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, we're going to talk
Okay.
about it on board.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead, David.
so the declaration of condominium, those are their articles, is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, because in there they did state they could,
They could
on
rent.
page, what was this, page 29, they're saying that they may be rented without approval of the association.
And in accordance with local regulations. So if we come up with the local regulation via the, Denise's point, then that would prevent that, I would assume. Right?
I thought
Denise?
Mr. Selinsky had been forthcoming from the beginning that these were intended to be used for some rental. I don't ever remember having a conversation about denying same.
Yeah, I don't remember, and no one remembers ever having the conversation, period, about it. So that's why I'm bringing it up now.
Yeah.
Mr. Selinsky, did you want to say something?
Yeah, if I might. In fact, when we had the discussion about increasing the garage size, I remember you in particular, were offering to make it larger because you said renters would appreciate that because of the bigger cars that people have right now. And it really wasn't, brought up. I think there were 2 meetings when we were talking about conditions. And so I'm kind of surprised to hear that now, because there was a large opportunity, I guess, to bring that into the discussion. It would be our preference to make them available. These aren't being built as rental units; they are being built as residential. But I wanted to give the potential buyers that option, or that possibility of having a little bit of rental income. There are plenty of clauses in the condo declaration docs that state that they can't be disruptive, that they are responsible for any damages, and so on. And if the village decides to go with, for instance, a 7-day rental period, then obviously we have to adhere to that. So just my only thoughts about that.
I would be in favor, since we didn't discuss it early on, instead of prohibiting, can we limit? And, you know, once a month or some number less than 90% or something like that.
Yeah, in fact, what is the code says something about residential condominiums. I think it has a limit in there if anybody has that handy under the definition of motel condos.
80% or more have to be available for 300 days a year.
Oh, okay.
So I am just, I'm sorry that it was something that I personally missed. I was wrapped up, I guess, in other aspects of that. It just totally slipped my mind. I understand David trying to limit it somehow and making a compromise, because we haven't talked about it in the past, but this is still not a done deal. We still have to recommend and move forward to the village board and have them sign off on it. So there still is that opportunity to address this. If we do limit it, I'd like to hear what people's proposals would be if they're interested in meeting in the middle on that. But how would it be policed, and who would be policing it, and
to enforce it? Who enforces? Yeah.
Mr. Selinsky, I got a question for you on regarding your statement just a little while ago about how, you know, your intention would be, you know, to make these residential sales to, in essence, residential folks, however, with the ability to do some sort of renting. Do you feel that if a purchaser was able to review the possibility of buying from you with the knowledge that they could rent for 30 days or more seasonally, or, you know, anytime throughout the year, do you think that something like that would be satisfactory in terms of any outreach beyond just the strictly residential, I'm going to live there customer?
Yes.
To make this successful for you?
Yes. For instance, I would not be happy to have somebody just buying it as a VRBO, you know, and then they're never there and it's rent. Absolutely. So, because I think some of the Shoreview units, for instance, were bought for that purpose. And no, I wouldn't be happy with that because I'm going to own one of the units and I don't want that constant turnover. So, you know, that kind of a limit I think is reasonable. And I would be fine with that. You know, a blanket statement saying it can't be rented at all, you know, would impact the viability of the project, I guess.
Well, if you sold it to someone, you have no control over what they do with it.
No, not necessarily, because there is the condo declaration document that has the rules for all those that are buying it.
But you didn't limit it in the condo docs.
Right, because at that time we didn't have that restriction, that condition. But you know, that's what we choose. Then we can go ahead and edit those.
If we were going to propose or move forward with the idea, for instance, you know, no rentals of 29 days or less, then to my knowledge, what has been done and may be commonplace and not just here or there, but I know what's been done in scenarios like this is that the docs would say, if you do choose to rent for 30 days or more, a copy of the rental agreement has to be provided to the association board. And then that way you don't have to, it removes a lot of the policing aspect, because you're basically making it required to say, okay, here's your board members. You need to present a copy of, you know, if you're going to rent it for the year, if you're going to rent it 1 month out of the season, you need to present a copy of your rental contract to the board so we know that you're following the docs.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I misunderstood what you were recommending there. So if it's, I wonder if we could meet in the middle. You know, if it's, I thought you were saying it couldn't be rented for more than 30 days in a year, or, you know, come up with a number. you know, if you're saying rent it for a month, well, then that's in a sense, I guess, turning it into a residential, I don't know, you know, a residential apartment building type of thing, which, you know, I'm looking for stability in the owners and the tenants. If people were to rent it out, how about we put a restriction that says, you know, 7 days at a time and not more than, I don't know, you know, pick a number, 8 weeks or 6 weeks or something in the year. I guess.
What do you mean? Can you please clarify the stability of the owners?
Well, if you're going to rent it out for a 30-day period, someone may say, I'm going to have, you know, 5 different tenants throughout the summer, and then that's a turnover. And to me, that's not any different than an Airbnb. But if we say, you know, they can't rent it for more than, you know, 4 weeks in the year, but they could be in 7-day increments, then, you know, then it's the occasional vacationer, but the owner is there the majority of the time.
Okay. So
the only development that I know that can successfully maintain a 30-day rental is Hidden Harbor, and there are only 2 units there doing that. So most of the owners really don't mind, and they are long-term owners that just can't get up very much anymore. It's a very difficult business model, and you can ask Chad or anybody else to get a 30-day rental in.
Well, making Mr. Solinsky's purchasers of this property is the success of that is not really my concern. You know, he came in for a conditional use permit. We have worked through that without a lot of obstacles, I think, compared to some other ones. It's residential condos. I personally believe that the market is saturated with VRBO. And if you want to build a residential condominium, then it should be residential, especially under the conditional use permit where we are allowed to restrict.
And I would just say, regarding your point, Mr. Solinsky, or your suggested idea of, for instance, you know, 4 weeks of rental per year, but up, you know, weeks individually, 7 days at a time. I would venture to say that if indeed there's any developments in the county, and certainly Mary Kay would probably know the answer to this, if there's any developments in the county right now with, you know, such a limitation that they can only rent 4 weeks, essentially 4 weekly rentals per year, I would think that would be as difficult to have any, you know, value or merit to the owner as, you know, I think it'd be more difficult to the owner than trying to find somebody who would want to rent, you know, on a longer term basis during the season. And I don't think anyone's thought of it or talked about it much, but essentially how many people up here start ultimately moving, you know, generationally move down to Florida for the winter, and they start that process by renting a place for a month or 6 weeks on Longboat Key or Naples or somewhere, and then eventually they move down there, and then they're residents there. And, you know, we don't have much data on it, but I don't know of any people coming to town for the weekend on VRBO that are winding up becoming residents in Door County. I would think over time, somebody who would look to spend a month here with their family renting a place would be more apt to maybe want to become a resident and part of the community, and possibly buy a unit from the person they were renting from on your property. But be that as it may, I would just say I appreciate, you know, you throwing out the 4 weeks per year, 7 days a week. But if that's something you're really comfortable with, then that would seem like certainly something feasible for us to consider.
Well, what I'm most comfortable with, to be honest, is the code as it's written for a residential condo, which is, and Bo help me out again, it's rented 80% of the units, which is those two, available for up to 300 days per year. Now, we're not talking about, doing that, but I mean, or I should say, I think that's quite a bit of rental time. But I guess that what I'm having trouble with is if, what's allowed in the code as a conditional use is the residential condo, then, going back to the law that was passed, a couple of years ago are there measurable and demonstrable issues that as a village you would have in creating that condition? And so I guess I'd say, the code as written, I think we're trying to live up to that.
Yeah, I think there are issues, and especially with homes that are rented, they are not utilized the same way that a hotel or a motel is used. Most hotels have 2 beds. Maybe you can have a crib in it. So you're talking about a maximum people of 4 adults. I have a VRBO right across the street from my home, and there were 6 cars there last week. So when people rent homes, they pack more people in a home, which means that there is more sewer and water. There is more garbage. The garbage is constantly overflowing. The garbage does not fit inside the bins. It is a constant problem that, yes, we are starting, the Plan Commission is going to start talking about short-term rental ordinance within the village to address some of these issues. But there are definite things that I believe are a detriment to the neighbors, to the community, to our sewer and water, to our garbage, to the traffic congestion. It's just turned into something else, and everyone, including you, are trying to get on board to do a development, sell it, and then in turn, the people that own that property use it as an investment income with not a whole lot of ties to the community. And when those 6 cars were parked across the street of my house, the 7th car was parked not on the shoulder, but in my lawn. So yeah, I have a real bad taste, but overall for the village, yeah, I can see where there's detriment that we need to rein in.
Can I get a definition, please? Are we calling this a condominium residential or a condominium hotel motel?
Residential condominium.
So that's what I wanted to clarify. There's no definition right now in our code for residential condominium as it stands right now.
It's on page...
The numbers that I was citing were for hotel motel condominiums in the definition.
I'm on page 182. Residential condominium is 75% of the units are owner occupied, and the casual non-commercial use does not exceed 30 days per year per unit.
Oh, I see that. Condominium residential, 75%. Yep.
So 75% are owner occupied, and in casual non-commercial use 30 days. I believe that that's what he's got to comply with. Is that correct?
Well done, David.
Thank you.
And this is a duplex in a single family home, correct, Jim? That's so 3 units.
And so what page is that on again? I'm sorry, Dave.
182. It's under definitions.
We can review that. That didn't sound unreasonable, but let me just take a look at it.
Yeah. Now, Jim, to your point, this does say that 25% of the units could be not. I'm wanting this. It's interesting. So 25%.
Well, no, it says we're more than 75% of the units.
Okay. So what if one is not? Can they just go nuts?
Well, that would have to be part of the exception that it's actually 66.7 or 66% if 2 out of the 3 were not rentable.
But I'm hearing that Mr. Zielinski really would prefer not to have a VRBO owner.
Strictly VRBO, correct. In other words, they will all be owner occupied. And so it's saying the casual non-commercial use does not, wait a minute, casual non-commercial. That, I don't know how that's defined.
That means that they could only rent it 30 days out of the year, 1 month, right. 4 weeks total. But unless the Plan Commission, gives special consideration and dictates from the zoning code, you don't have enough units for the 75% to come in. So basically, that just takes as it stands.
He's got 30 days.
No, as he stands, he has no days.
No,
because go ahead, Bo.
You have 3 units. That's 33.3%. So right. You're only at 66.
Correct. So
it's correct.
75%. So he can't, with 3 units, he can't rent out any of the units.
Correct.
Well, no, wait, because 75%, so 100% will be owner occupied. And what we're saying is that any of those units, each unit could be used for rental, but not more than 30 days, each unit, right? I mean, so they'll all be owner occupied, owned, but any particular unit could be rented for 30 days. I think how we're reading that.
Okay. Do you want to put a 7-day minimum on that then too?
Well, I wouldn't, but it's up to you guys.
Jim, I'd like to say one thing. I think you should talk to your attorney on this. I think this is getting into a state law issue that everybody is struggling with. I mean, there's a lot of people in Sister Bay in single family homes that are doing this. And for you to have to, agree to this, I think is somewhat discriminatory.
Well, this is
the fact that this is in a commercial district besides, and there is, I can understand Denise's point where you're in a single family residential district and you have this going on, but this project's in a commercial district. And this seems to be late in the game for something that we've talked about now for how many meetings? Where is this coming from?
I'm sorry if I'm not perfect, Steve.
Well, I'm not saying
you certainly are welcome
seems to like it's bad timing.
Speak to your attorney, but this is a conditional use permit.
Yes, I was going to say.
And the Plan Commission is allowed to.
The conditions have already been given to us, and we put them in a development agreement.
Right, but it has not been approved or recommended to the village board yet.
I'm just saying it's a sticky situation.
Yeah, but to be honest, I don't want to delay
one way and let everybody else do it another way.
Yeah, I don't want to delay things anymore, though, Steve. If
we're
in agreement that that this the conditional use is for a residential condo, and that's what the code is, we can work with the village board on altering the code at a later date. But I would adhere to the code as written at this point. And
Mr. Zielinski, I will warn you very stringently that other people have done this and said, I'll make the changes later, and they are paying for it right now. So, just remember that those changes may not be made.
No, I understand. And I understand that, it's a process for any of the code changes to be made, but you know, I want to get moving on the project, and this at least gives us some flexibility, and it gives the future owners some flexibility to, you know, rent it out a limited number of days.
Okay, so then I would like to add, if I'm hearing general consensus or agreement here, that we will add to the conditions the definition of condominium residential and the definition.
Agreed.
Okay, but amended in such fashion that the definition of residential condominiums.
Condominium residential, condominium, comma, residential.
Is included, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So then the other question that I had is on page 29, Article 7, use restrictions. And I don't know who highlighted this in red and green, and if there's a reason for it.
Yeah, that was our attorney. And as we were working through this, I didn't realize that I still had that in there. I think what we did is we lifted language from the code to make sure that we were in adherence regarding, you know, use of the units as businesses. And so I'm just reviewing it. And I think the green was something that I added for his review. So, you know, just to say that we had to adhere to local regulations and so on. So it was just sort of the internal discussion between the attorney and me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did the Plan Commission have any other comments?
Rob's waving his hand.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sometimes you'll have to speak because
Okay.
I get off of the Zoom screen and I'm looking at the packet, so I can't see that. So
I
go
just
ahead,
have
Rob.
a question. Since it's a conditional, would we want one of the conditions to be that the association maintains a copy of all rental transactions, and that upon request of the village administrator, they can be reviewed by the village?
I like that idea. I think I would have to confirm with the tourism zone, because they would have to be registered with them and pay the room tax.
We get those reports every month, Denise.
So we would be able to know cumulatively through those reports. I mean, we would, so I think that's better that way.
I was strictly thinking from the standpoint of your point about, you know, the whole spectrum of it being difficult to police. It becomes, you know, the onus, if somebody knows I'm buying a condo and if I'm going to rent it, I've got to turn copies in of the rental agreement, that does more in my experience to keep things on the up and up than somebody just saying, oh, you know what, I'm not going up this weekend. I can just squeeze another weekend Airbnb in there and not worry about it.
Okay, well, I will.
So something to think about. But
I will lean into your expertise in the rental business. So that's all right with me if we wanted to add that verbiage. Does anybody else have comments or thoughts on that other addition?
Do we even have a mechanism though? And does Mr. Zielinski have a mechanism to gather them? I mean, let's face it, how many rentals within 2 miles of where we're sitting right now are being done off book already?
None of them.
None.
Pardon?
None of them.
So there's no one around here that's just running into their family off book.
Well,
no, because the tourism zone researches that every single month for all the communities. And they do contact properties and try to track down owners if they do find some advertising on those sites, but they are not a member of the Tourism Zone Commission and paying room tax. They do follow through on that. And Sister Bay, from my understanding, the last report that I looked at, which was a couple of months ago, there was nobody that was in non-compliance.
Okay, all right.
And if I could, I can see that it could be problematic to say that the village wants to review the rental agreements. Those change from time to time, and to be honest, they'll probably be done through a third party, site like a VRBO, Airbnb, or Door County Property Management, something like that, versus just saying, from time to time, the village will do an audit of the number of days that the units are rented out to make sure that it adheres, to the condition. Because I think that, I don't know that the village wants to get in the business of, and I don't know that they can really, of reviewing whatever legalese is involved in these contracts. The condo association documents state how the owners and their guests should treat the facility and so on. So I just think that can be a little bit sticky.
This is such a small condominium that you're not even required to have an executive summary. This just seems a bit unduly burdensome to me.
Okay. Jim, how many bedrooms are in each of the duplexes?
3.
3 bedrooms in each.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Oh, that's wrong. There's 4 bedrooms in unit 3.
Yeah, in the single family, right? But the duplex has
the
3.
Duplex.
3, yeah.
Right, that's right.
Okay. Along with the, because of what I was referencing before on the overflow of occupancy in single family homes, I would like to add also that when it is rented, that occupancy is 6. It's 2 people per bedroom. So we don't,
that to me.
Don't, pardon?
I'm just seeing if we have that in the condo docs at all already.
I didn't see that. I didn't see it.
So that way there's not, 6 cars in the driveway.
Children?
What's that, Steve?
I think that's crazy, but what if they're children? What if you have a couple couples with 2 kids each?
Yeah, I mean, if we're trying to limit the number of cars, why don't we do that? And I think that is stated there. If not, it's probably in the village code, but just reviewing.
Occupancy is much
I think this is getting into
easier
a really sticky situation when you start making these kind of conditions that.
No, there's all kinds of ordinances that are being adopted by communities that are limiting occupancy by the REUs that the building was built for, or the POWTS if they don't have sewer and water.
Well, you should have that in your zoning code if you're that concerned about it.
We are going to.
Well, but you don't have it now.
Correct.
We gave you 4 parking spaces, more than what the zoning code requires, and now I don't know what you're doing, honestly.
So does anybody else agree or disagree with me that it's 6 people per unit, 2 people per bedroom?
That's what I don't know how you police that. That's my own.
Well, because it's your occupancy is stated when you rent it online, and how many people can fit. So that's something that the tourism zone would be able to know.
I think I'd be more comfortable with an occupant, if we're going to do occupancy, say occupancy 8, because it is possible in a 1 bedroom that you would have 2 full-size beds. So that, maybe 2 adults and 2 children, or 2 adults and 1 child. I mean, you don't know. Just because it's 3 bedrooms doesn't necessarily mean there's 1 bedroom and 1 bed in each bedroom.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with Marge on that, actually.
Okay.
8. Yep.
I think 8.
If your concern is parking, why don't you limit the number of cars that are
Because I
allowed?
can't police the number of cars. We can police the occupancy.
I don't think you can police that either, but.
Yes, you can, because it's on the listing site with who's renting it, the occupancy of each unit.
It doesn't sound like we're going to be able to rent it. So.
Well, no, they will for 30 days. I mean, you know, let's be honest. If something says you have 3 bedrooms and, you know, sleeps 6 or 8, you know, they're not going to bring 20 people, but
okay,
whatever.
So do we have general consensus that we will add occupancy as 8 for each unit?
Yes.
Of the duplexes, yes.
In the duplex.
Can I read back the conditions that I've got so far?
Sure.
The definition of condominium residential will be delineated in its entirety. That'll be a condition. The condominium declaration and document shall be amended in such fashion that it states what?
No, we have no control over that.
Okay, so Rob's suggestion, you're not going to do that?
Correct.
Okay,
correct.
So it's just the definition of condominium residential, and occupancy will be limited to 8 people per unit.
Correct, per unit.
Maximum occupancy is 8.
Okay, maximum. So I'll say maximum occupancy that will be allowed per unit is 8 persons, right?
Correct. Is there any other general concerns or comments that Plan Commission members want to make before we start filling in the blanks of the development agreement?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, Bo or Janelle, do you want to take us through that starting on page 41?
Right now.
You gonna do it, Bo, or do you want me to?
Janelle, can you go through it and I'll follow along?
Okay. On page 1, you just have to put the day that it's entered into. So what date would you like there?
Is it the date as of the board approval? I'm not sure.
Typically it's going to be like sometime in August.
Yeah,
so
that's fine.
That the day of the board meeting? Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So that took care of that. Then I think that Jim had provided me with all of the information that we needed. So everything should be pretty well filled in.
Okay, because I didn't see anything highlighted.
Yeah, I took that all away because Jim had given me all the information that you needed.
Okay.
We started the process at the last meeting.
So we had changed the name of it. It's no longer with James Solinsky. You're entering into the agreement with Orchard's Corner Condominium, and then Jim signs it on behalf of the condominium.
Yep.
On page 14, there's an open spot by a registered agent. Or 30, well, it's his 14, our 34.
34? Is that on that's on the ordinance, huh?
Yeah, that's it, yep.
Okay, we don't have anything to do with that, David. That's the condominium documents. Those are just included for reference.
Got it.
Okay, so unless you have any questions about the conditions that are in here, it's pretty well all filled in. The completion date was changed to September 1st of 2022 before minimum assessed value payments come into play.
Okay.
And then we had included that provision about adding bathrooms after the fact.
Correct.
Okay, so that was added.
Okay. All right, if nobody has anything else, then would there be a motion to recommend to the village board as presented and amended?
Well, Denise, you also have the plat, the preliminary plat that you have to approve.
Oh, okay.
Let's start with the plat.
Sorry. Is there a motion to
approve the preliminary plat?
Motion by Zashki.
Second.
Second by Gretzmacher. All those in favor respond with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Now what would you like me to do?
Well, do you want me to read the motions, the other two motions back? Would that help?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
That the Plan Commission recommends that the village board pass and adopt ordinance number 283 that authorizes the issuance of a conditional use permit to James Selinsky that will allow the creation of a residential condominium on parcel number 18142 as presented, but amended in such fashion that the following conditions be added to that document. The definition of condominium residential shall be deleted in its entirety, and maximum occupancy that will be allowed per unit is 8 persons. So that's that one.
Okay. Someone care to make that motion?
I so move.
Motion by Gretzmacher. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ward. All those in favor respond with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Okay, and then the last motion is that the Plan Commission recommends that the village board approve the development agreement between the village and representative of Orchards Corner condominium that was reviewed at this meeting as presented, but amended in such fashion that the definition of condominium residential is included in the conditional use permit, as well as verbiage that states that maximum occupancy that will be allowed per unit is 8 persons.
I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Schmitz. All those in favor respond with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, item number 3, discussion regarding and review of the lighting plan and lighting fixture spec sheets for the Piggly Wiggly storage building that is being constructed on the property located at 10576 Country Walk Drive, as well as revised building elevation drawings that depict the addition of 2 small cupolas to the roof of that building, and a revised site plan that depicts the addition of a decorative fence on the front of it, and review of a request from Tom Nesbitt for permission to utilize 2 outdoor merchandise storage units at the Piggly Wiggly.
Yep.
So that you know, Tom Nesbitt is on here.
Yep. So I tried to break it down in the report. There's several things here that we need to address from the representative. Number one, being a fence permit, that's included on the site plan. The fence will be located it's only on 2 sides at the front of the storage building, and its significant purpose is just to distinguish the employee break space, and so no one trips on the sides of the cement there. It's going to be matching the fence that's existing on the Piggly Wiggly building already outside of their outdoor dining area or outdoor seating area. The second one on here is the accessory structures. This is a request for the use of 2 temporary outdoor open structures. There were pictures included in the packets.
Okay, can we just deal with one at a time?
Let's do that.
Thank you. Okay, so we want to, there was a 3D rendering in our packet on page 80 and 81 showing the cupolas, but it does not show the fence, and the drawing that's in here is barely legible to where the fence location is. I understand that it's small on page 84, and am I reading it correctly that that one is on an angle and the other is straight? I can't I can't figure it out.
How about, did you look at page 85?
It's on there on the, it says the white aluminum railing system.
Okay, that show the, all right, that's the east elevation.
That's the north and the east elevation shows it.
Okay, I'm okay, thank you.
It's in summary, it's a white decorative metal fence, very similar. It's the exact same fence material that's on the existing Piggly
Sure.
building.
Just a question for Mr. Nesbitt. As I was looking at this plan, something struck me odd about it. And so I looked back, I think, at the March meeting that you attended when you gave us a site plan, and the proposed building on what you presented in March and what is in our packet today is different.
Got a question?
Go ahead, Tom.
Is that a question? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Is that a question for me?
Yes, sir.
Well, the site plan that is accompanying today's petition is incorrect. The original site plan is correct. When asked, the contractor's drafter made an obvious error and added about 8 feet to the setback off of the north line of the property line.
Okay. Just clarifying that what we approved in March is what has happened.
Yeah, I personally happened to measure that just about a week and a half ago to determine what the size and elevation change would be on the concrete driveway leading to the overhead door, and it was in fact 25 feet.
Okay. All right. So anybody else have any other questions about the fence?
Nope.
Is there a motion to approve as presented?
Excuse me. I have a question about what was approved in March and some details on that. Is that storage unit still there? I have not been by there to look at it recently.
Nate, to answer your question, that temporary storage building has been gone since the July 4th.
Yes.
Fantastic. I just wanted to, I've been by there and I just wanted to make sure because that came
gone
up in March.
Nope, it's gone.
Fantastic.
So is there a motion to approve the fence as presented?
So moved.
Motion by Schmitz.
Second.
Second by Ward. All in favor respond with an aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Okay, Bo, next item.
The second one is an accessory structure. These are 2 temporary outdoor structures. They are 3-sided. They're to protect goods from the sunlight and from the weather. That'll be placed outside. They are painted to match the exterior of the Piggly Wiggly building. There were pictures included in the packet. These are temporary and they will only be placed during, it's basically 3 seasons and will be removed in the winter season.
And seeing that we have a picture of this, so it's currently there and they're asking for permission after the fact?
Correct. From what I had asked, I asked Tom to take a picture of it and they did take a picture of it. However, it doesn't look like they removed it after they took a picture of it.
Oh, well, to refresh everybody's recollection, I actually have a permit to have this until such time as the storage building was finished. And so I was under the impression that this was being approved for seasonal use and not just for the period of time relative to our building. So with that in mind, I then made the request that we have this available to us really essentially for the months of May through October.
I don't recall issuing a permit for these temporary. I think that the point in what I just
well, I have it here. It was 614.
What's that, Janelle?
I believe we did issue a temporary one.
Yeah.
A temporary structure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What it said, Bo, was that these sheds will only remain until completion of the storage building. No signage and language is allowed on the temporary shed. And this was issued on June 14th. As with conditions with everything that's happening today in the world of construction, it took a significant amount of time before we even got one finished. So I tried to get one finished for the purpose of this hearing so that you would see what we were talking about. It's essentially, we're talking about trying to improve the exterior appearance and also provide some protection for whatever product might be contained within that little shelter there.
So I can understand that you have an ice machine outside, as most businesses do, and you have, you know, your water softener salt outside, and you have the wood outside. That all makes sense to me. And you may think that this is petty, but you just put an addition on to your store. And now you want to have more product that could be housed inside, outside for 6 or more months out of the year. I understand the other things. Water, I do not.
Well,
is this like for loss leader product? Is this for something that's on sale? Could you clarify?
Well, right now, I think that all of you are aware of the fact that water is in high demand in Door County. So we sell a significant amount of water. At present, we have within the confines of the store shelving that contains water, end caps that contains water, and approximately 3 to 4 pallets inside the contained water. So it is not unusual to see a customer come into the store on their way in and pick up 2 to 3 24 packs of water that they're going to be using over the course of their trip to Door County. It becomes very difficult for us to keep ahead of that. So that's why the water appears also on the outside of the facility, along with other items, because of the fact that there is a great deal of demand, and that to move pallets around does take some effort and some coordination, especially when we've been as busy as we have this year with the lack of help. So the purpose here is we've had water on the outside of our building probably for at least 10, 15 years. And the purpose here is, quite frankly, it's just a matter of aesthetics.
So outdoor merchandising in the zoning code shall mean car sales lots, equipment sales lots, retail gasoline stations, garden centers, and other similar areas where products are permanently displayed or dispensed outdoors.
I think
is this the same thing as retail? I mean, we're not
in regards to lack of staff and lack of manpower in relation to actual water consumption. To me, that may have to have some consideration.
Lauren, were you going to say something?
I was just wondering out loud if the definition applies here, because they're not selling directly from this location that we're discussing, correct? This is just storage.
Display.
Oh, it is display. Okay.
Mr. Nesbitt, I got one question for you on the displays.
Yes, sir.
Do you intend to have the product set up in a manner that shoppers would not be in open parking spaces or in the travel through of the parking lot area while they're gandering at your selection of merchandise displayed outside? Or would the way the merchandise be set up pose the opportunity for a shopper to stop in one of those parking spaces and look at the merchandise?
I'm sorry, I'm having a little hard time understanding what you're saying to me.
Okay, what happens already, and this is by no fault of anyone of yours, we love your store. Your team runs a wonderful operation, but you know, I've just in the past 2 weeks alone, I spoke to 2 senior citizen residents who grabbed me by the arm as we were entering the store saying, I almost got hit out there by somebody going through the lot and they didn't see that I was in the safe place where they shouldn't have been driving close to me. So my question is, if we increase the amount of merchandise on display and it's something for more people to stop and view, would the merchandise be displayed in a manner that if, for instance, a parking space on the side of the store there opens up, that somebody's not going to get out of a car 2 spaces down, stop in the last space, be looking at the merchandise, and then somebody's pulling into the lot, but they don't pull into the space all the way because somebody's standing in it looking at the merchandise, and then the person driving in behind them hopefully doesn't hit them because they slam on their brakes because they can't pull into the parking space because somebody's standing in there looking at merchandise on display. That's my question is, is the merchandise going to be presented outside in that manner that it's not going to cause backup out into the parking lot?
Well, I don't see why people would be stopping to look at the water, but I obviously can't say that that would never happen because it doesn't strike me as I've ever seen it happen.
Well, I don't think you've ever entered into, I can tell you people, when you, in the area of the entrance of the store where you stack the pallets of water, and when that runs down or when it's not run, people stop there. People stop there. They get the water. Should we take it now? Should we finish the shopping? Should we get a cart?
Getting it. Yes, of course.
Right. So those same customers are going to be stopping and pondering the same questions in the parking lot if all the water's on display, and as you well know, when the water comes in and your team takes it and stages it there on the pallets in the area it's at inside the entranceway now, people stop and wait until it's there so they can grab their water because they know if I don't grab my 1 or 2 waters, there might not be any to grab. And now we're talking about the possibility for that happening in the parking lot.
Well, but it's been happening for 15 years. And there's never been anybody who has been injured. And you're too close to the building, I think, for this to become, the pallet only comes out 4 feet from the building.
It is on the concrete pad, Rob. I understand the point that you're trying to make.
I'm just asking, if he feels secure, and
yes, I do.
He doesn't see that as being an issue.
No, are we going to ask the Johnsons to take the goats off of the roof? Because we have the exact same problem downtown. In a more dramatic fashion. I think this conversation is, I can't think of a store in the United States that doesn't have merchandise outside at this specific time of the year.
Right, and I agree with you there, Mary Kay. The ice, the solar cell, the wood, that all makes sense. Most businesses have all of that out sitting outside. I just question, and whether it's been going on, forever is, I guess, beside the point. But if everybody feels, that this is, kicking a dead horse, continuing this conversation, then
I think we should look at, do we want a temporary shed out there for months out of the year? I mean, he's put plants out there. I understand all of that. I think as much as they've tried to make it look somewhat nice, it cheapens the outside of the building.
Okay. So is there a motion somebody would care to make?
I'd make a motion to approve the temporary shelters as presented.
From May through October?
From May through October.
Okay. Motion by Shumway. Is there a second?
I'll second that. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Second by Bell. All those in favor respond with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Okay. Motion carried. 2 nays. Okay. Third issue, Bo?
Yes, so the third thing to address on there, it's actually 2 parts. It's the lighting and the addition of 2 cupolas to the top of the storage building. The renderings are included in the packet.
So was the lighting not presented around in the soffit originally?
Correct, there was no lighting for the storage building or besides the inside. Tom is looking to match what is at Piggly Wiggly with the storage building.
Okay. I prefer no soffit lighting to highlight a storage building, no matter how attractive they have tried to make it. I don't see its purpose. It is not on the front porch where you enter the building. It's on the other 3 sides, the way I look at it on this plan. I think the addition of the cupolas, is great. Have no problem with that, but don't see why the soffit needs to be lit.
I would agree, Denise, that the lighting on the soffit adds no value, but I also don't think the 2 extra soffits add value. I asked them to go by this morning and I thought the 1 was okay, but 2 more I think cheapens it up.
Okay.
What?
Whenever I see cupolas, I always wonder what Marge thinks. I will never forget that, Marge.
You're never going to let me live that down.
I disagreed with you, and I mean, it was an honest disagreement, but I will always remember that, and I know that they didn't even happen after that. That's where I was really disappointed.
That's right. Well, in this case, it's a storage building. I don't think they're necessary, but I'm not necessarily against them.
I think they're a nice architectural detail. I do agree that the lighting, because it's a storage building, I don't think it's needed.
Agreed. I'm fine with the cupolas, but as long as safety lights are in place on the exterior of the building, I don't see the need to beautify it. It's not like the Piggly Wiggly logo is going up there. It's not like we're treating this like a place customers are going to be going into.
All right, I will make a motion to approve the addition of 2 cupolas and deny the request for the soffit lighting on the storage building. Motion by Berto.
I'll second.
Second by Ward. Any further discussion? All those in favor respond with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Wow. Well, we already got them. We'll have to take them out.
I guess that's not the first time that's happened with lighting at the Pig.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I'm not complaining. We'll just take care of it. But I'm looking at this thing, and I'm not sure how this all comes to be at this point in time. So, from what I can see, but it's pretty microscopic. It looks like this lighting proposal was put together just in June. So, Normally, wouldn't that have been submitted to you earlier than that? We started this project in early May, and I know the meeting had been prior to that for the approval of the development agreement relative to this. So I didn't expect that we would get declined, but that's okay. We'll take care of it.
Tom, you don't have to remove them. All you have to do is just not electrify them.
Again, that's something you've had to do in the past.
Pardon me?
That is something you've had to do in the past. When there was lighting installed that was not approved.
You're talking about the pig signs?
Yes.
Yeah, well, that certainly was nothing that we knew anything about. Believe it or not.
Okay, we're going to move on.
All right, well, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Well, no, just for the minutes, so you're not approving any of the lighting that was proposed?
Correct.
Okay.
What?
Yeah, they're not approving any of it, Tom.
I thought safety lighting.
Yeah, I thought it was just the soffits.
It's just the soffit.
I don't think it is.
Well, that's what my motion was, the soffit lighting.
Oh, so you're approving the other lighting, except for the soffit lighting?
Correct.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
You need safety lighting, yes.
That's what I thought. Okay.
So it's the safety plan, or it's the lighting plan as presented, less the soffit lighting, essentially.
Okay. So approves the lighting plan and lighting fixture spec sheets that were reviewed at this meeting on the condition that approval is not granted for any of the soffit lighting.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification, Janelle.
I'm sorry for giving you a heart attack, Tom.
It's all right.
Okay, item number 4, discussion regarding and review of the formal versions of the site plan, the grading and drainage plan, the parking plan, the utilities plan, the landscaping plan, and the lighting plan, as well as building elevation drawings and floor plans and materials and color listing, as well as siding and shingle samples for the condo hotel Alan Goki would like to construct at 2399 Maple Drive. Bo?
Correct. I don't want to repeat every set of plans that have come in here, but they are included in the packet for review. This is following the last conversation, and it should be noted that there was extensive conversation regarding the lobby area and how it will be used. And so I included a note from the developer that the common spaces are just the seating area and a bar/countertop that's only accessible and users for owners and guests. It's not open to the public. Plan Commission had previous discussion regarding the common space, staffing, parking, etc. What's included in the plans or in the packet are the final plans for review.
Okay. I would first like some clarification from you, Al. What do you consider the front yard of your property?
Do you mean common space or who?
No, the front yard, the side yards, the rear yard. What do you consider the front yard?
I'm not sure what you mean. What would it be used for? I'm not sure.
Well, there's certain setback requirements for front, side, and rear. So
Right.
I'm asking you, what do you consider the front yard on the plan? Is it, the parking lot, forward? Obviously, I think we can all assume that the bluff is the rear yard. I'm just need you to tell me what you consider the front yard is.
What do you think, Steve? I mean, how could we?
Well, the front yard is the parking lot.
Okay. Okay.
What other? It's the access to the building.
Okay. All right. That's fine.
Oh, I understand that. I thought maybe she was talking about in between the parking lot and the building where there's going to be
No, she's talking about the definition of setbacks. Yeah, front yard, side yard, backyard.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that, because different regulations come into play depending upon, you know, how you are presenting it. And on your plan, let me find which page it's on. It is on page 97. And so you have Maple Drive written in, you know, to get into your parking lot. And if that is a public street, then I thought I saw somewhere that it was 21 feet wide. Is that correct?
The driveway entering to the building?
Yes.
That is correct.
Okay. Speaking with Robert E. Lee, they suggested that Janelle spoke to them today that it should be a minimum of 26 feet wide. So that's one question that I have. The other is I talked to the fire chief, and we need some clarification or a measurement that was done on one of the plans to make sure that the fire truck can make the turn. So can somebody get a measurement for me that where Maple Drive then curves into the parking lot, and from that curve to the end of that first parking stall up against the building, what that measurement is?
So where she's talking about, Steve, is the switchback that goes into the parking lot. What is that dimension? Because you're going to take away 20 some feet for parking. So what is the measurement from the end of that parking space to where the right side of the driveway would be entering, if that's going to be large enough for the fire department to go in there? So,
well, what does the fire department require?
Well, it all depends. They need 70 feet minimum.
A 70-foot radius, or?
No, they need 70 feet. Chris drew it on the plan on what he needed, and that would be at grade. If there's anything over a foot high along there, a retaining wall, plantings, trees, anything of that nature, they would need 80 feet. And then if there's anything taller, what did he say, Bo? 6 feet in that area, they would need 90 feet.
Correct.
So it depends on, you know, on that, the north property line that abuts the yacht club, you know, what's in the 10-foot setback, if there's any height to anything. So it's a minimum of 70 and up to 90.
Well, we'd have, I don't know, I can't say off the top of my head. We could provide a drawing with the required radiuses that Chris wants.
He didn't give me a radius. He just gave minimum feet, a length. So I asked him about radius, and that's not.
Denise, you know Chris is on, right?
Like a typical, I mean, if Chris is on, maybe he can chime in, but usually a typical cul-de-sac is about, you know, like 60 feet in radius. And we have, you know, we have the drive in between the parking is 22, and then the parking's 20, and then the driveway is whatever we end up doing. So that's over 60 feet. We're closer to 70 feet from outside to where, you know, cars would be parked. But, you know, obviously we can fine tune the information so Chris can see it more clearly.
Do you want me to comment forward, Denise?
Please go ahead, Chris.
So it's, what we're looking for is 70 feet curb to curb. And then the way the truck works is because the, you know, the front bumper and the cab overhang the front axle, we can get away with 70 feet up to about a foot in height. So let's say you had a curb or parking barricades or any of those kinds of things, we just clear over the top of them with the front of the truck. But then if it sticks up more than about a foot because of the overhang of the truck, that dimension goes out about another 10 feet. And then if we get up over cab height because of the basket on the aerial, then we gain another 10 feet. So it's 70, 80, or 90, kind of in a stair-step configuration. As you go up, it has to get wider. But the ideal diameter, curb to curb, minimum at ground level is 70 feet. So,
yeah, I'm not sure if Robert E. Lee was thinking we would have a curb along the driveway coming up or not.
Right, we just need to be able to, we essentially need to be able to make that hill, make a 180-degree turn and wind up in front of the building.
Right, right. Yeah. Well, I'm sure we can work that out. Again, that you have 22 plus 20 for the parking plus the space in between. I'm thinking it's 8 feet. So that's 30, 40, 50, 60, 71. If we're saying the driveway is 21, if we're going to say the driveway is wider, then we'll have more. We're trying not to push the building up any farther up the hill than we need to. But we can.
Okay. Thanks, Chris.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, I'll be on for a while. I'll just mute down again. Ask a question if you need me.
Okay, thank you. Is there a hydrant that you have to install on one of the plans?
So we're in the process of talking with Jared from Robert E. Lee. He never mentioned anything to us about it, but he's wrapping everything up. I guess that's a question we could ask him. It was never even brought to our attention about that. So
we're not quite sure where existing hydrants are. And maybe Chris, you can chime in again. Is there a distance, 300 feet, 100 feet, or what would you like to see?
Typically it's 150 feet from the FDC. So you'll have a sprinkler connection and there should be a hydrant within 150 feet of the FDC.
Okay.
And 150 feet is the SBC you're talking about, the connection that's on the outside.
At the building.
Right.
Correct. Correct. And we require that at the front door. So you'll typically have the FDC, the Knox box, the water flow alarm will all be stacked at the front door.
Okay. Yeah, we'll just have to see, Steve, if there's something close enough because the lobby is dropped down. Maybe we're okay there, but I guess we just have to measure it.
Yeah, our depth from the building to the property line is less than 150 feet. So I guess, maybe also the question is, does the village want it on our property or do we want it off, somewhere near the driveway coming in so it can serve other buildings in the area? So, I mean, obviously we'd be willing to put it wherever you want.
Denise, typically Robert E. Lee weighs in on that because they look at the layout of the overall grid and what it takes to keep things flushed and moving. So I would just defer to them.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So Robert E. Lee is still working on the utility plan. So nobody has that yet, including you. Is that correct, Al?
Yes.
Okay. So, but do you have some sense of, where are all the utilities going to be located? Are they under the parking lot, under the road, all of the above? Do you know any of that information, even though you don't have a final plan, or is that just something we have to wait to find out?
If you look on that Robert E. Lee's drawing, let's see, which one is that? The utility plan. The sewer and water are on the east side of the driveway coming up.
Oh, do you know what page that is?
Looking for it right now. It is on page, what is this? 95.
95. Okay, I was already past it.
98.
Yeah, so it's actually not on our, it's not on the property. It's on the backside of Sister Bay Yacht Club along the property line.
Is it okay? So that big thick line?
Yep.
No,
it's to the side of that. It's kind of running adjacent to the property line. It's got the
within the 10-foot setback.
Yeah, it says 8SS, which is 8-inch sanitary.
And then 8W.
And then 8W is 8-inch water line.
Okay. And then it goes west right into the building.
And then we're going to tap off somewhere. You can see the 2 taps that he's calling out, a 6-inch water service and a 6-inch sanitary service.
Okay. All right. And so I see that there are inlets for all of the storm water. And one of, so basically, even though you meet the open space criteria, because there's a lot of the bluff that you own that is considered the open or green space, almost everything else on where you're constructing is impervious surface. So all of your stormwater then is going to be sent off site down mill to the vortex in Waterfront Park and then out to the beach, correct?
Well, Jared's proposing a under parking lot storage facility or storage tanks to alleviate the majority of the water going into the public system.
Okay.
Underground storage to reduce peak flows, it says. We haven't seen an actual final design of that, but we talked about how we would do it, and we understand it needs to be done.
Okay.
So yeah, he's working on the final details of that, but he thinks it can work.
Okay. So nobody knows the size of that storage yet until his plan is finished.
Not the exact size, correct.
Okay. No. All right. Okay. So with determining the front of the building, which is the parking lot and the road, according to code in the B2 and the B3 district, parking cannot be between the road and the building. Now, this is kind of a little bit of a different lot. It's kind of a dead end to a certain degree, but I wanted to make sure that the Plan Commission was aware that that is against code. And if we feel that this, because of the particular place of the property, that would not apply. I just want to make sure that everybody thinks about that. And then the last thing that I have, along with other Plan Commission members, had to do with the height. So, David, did you want to speak to this at all?
Yeah, so they are allowed, hang on, 45 feet if they are a hotel motel and they're on larger than 1 acre. So that's check, check. But the floor area of the 4th story shall not exceed the floor area of the 1st floor. Retail or general restaurants, fast food, they don't have any of that. and the first floor, I guess, and then we have to, the 4th story shall be stepped back from the 3rd story. So I guess the question I have is there a 4th story or not? Because, you know, we might be bumping up. I'm thinking that there might be a conflict here, but that it also reads because of the 1st floor issue there. I'm not quite sure. You know, everything, they're going up to 662 before we have the peak. And what is that porch up there? Is that for recreation or is that for maintenance?
It's for maintenance.
Okay.
When you say maintenance, do you mean like AC condensers, or what exactly are you referring to?
Yeah, so in Marina View, we ended up putting all the AC condensers on the roof. And when we talked to the HVAC guy, he thought that would be a good scenario with this location. And the way the grade is of the building, just to kind of get it out of the way. So that's why that's up there. As of right now, we're unsure where exactly the HVAC is going, but right now, it seems like that would be the easiest solution.
Yeah, we haven't decided whether it's going to be a whole building condensing system or individual condensing systems for each unit. I think we're sort of trending towards a whole building system. So that's where it would be.
Would we not need to know that and where that placement is to give approval for this project? I mean, because the agenda item said final plans, did it not?
It did.
Oh gosh, it sounds like there are still dozens of things that still need to be resolved on this.
Well, that's where the HVAC guy would like to see it. We talked about, you know, magic packs instead of using a whole system for the hotel, and 99% chance that's what we're going to do. So then it would go on the roof. If we do, each individual unit will have its own HVAC system.
Yeah, the reason we have that additional, that's the top of the stairway. We'd rather have a stair going up to the mechanical systems on the roof than have a ladder or hatch or, you know, so that's why it's there.
So I'm going to have to ask further then. So if we're saying 45 is okay, I'm seeing here that there's a peak well above that right there and on the other side. Do we allow that, folks? If you look at page page 109.
In the code or in the packet?
In the package.
Okay.
His building is 45 feet to the bottom of that little fence that's going to enclose the HVAC. He then goes above that.
Right.
Well, those, from my understanding, when there's a gable, the height is in the middle of that gable. They take the average and the height would be in the middle of the gable.
So what is the height then of the elevator shaft? Because that's the tallest point.
Well, yeah, but if you recall the last meeting we had, we talked about the hotel rooms were on existing grade, and we tried to do that so we wouldn't have to dig into the bluff as much as, you know, and then we talked about, well, the only thing that's below existing grade is the entrance, and the reason we did that is to lower the parking lot so it wasn't so high off the street. So we were not counting the height of the lobby as part of the building height. We were starting on the first floor. And so if you go up from the first floor to the mansard roof height, that's only 36 feet.
Okay.
So that, you know, that was our discussion last time. You know, I don't think we formalized anything, obviously, but that's what we were proposing last time.
Okay, so
that's why it is what it is.
Okay, so can you clarify for me that on that page where it says the lobby, okay, so the lobby is elevation 615?
Correct.
And what is the elevation of the peak of the elevator shaft?
Oh, I'd be guessing, but you know, maybe 10 feet to the peak. Not quite that much. Because if you look at the distance from floor to floor, that's 10 feet. Okay. So if you sort of imagine that, yeah, maybe about 10 feet, 9 feet.
Okay, so
basically, if you take that line, you can,
is that what I'm sorry, David. So then you're saying like 672 would be the peak?
Something like that. Mm-hmm.
That's a foot over. You can go to 671 if we use first floor grade.
Well, we could easily do that.
We could easily do that. The elevator shaft, just smooth that down because it's
it's a high peak. It's matching the other pitches.
Yeah, we can lower where the soffit starts. There'd probably be enough headroom.
You're never going to see it anyway. I mean, it doesn't really, for visual, it doesn't matter. You could just put a flat roof on the top of it too.
So if I take 672 and subtract 615, that's 57 feet tall.
Correct, but now subtract 11 feet because that's the subgrade from the
and then you're at 46, but they have no first floor retail. And that's only
but then that would make this a 3-story development.
Okay. If Plan Commission agrees that the lower lobby is below grade and not part of the entire height. Okay. One thing, Steve, I think that you, when Chris was talking earlier, you don't know if you're going to curb and gutter. I think that would be a request of mine to keep the water because you are going into the bluff. There's not a whole lot of green space that you keep that water on your property to go into that storage tank. I don't know how the rest of Plan Commission feels about that, but that's something that certainly
and we can definitely do that. I wasn't sure what Jared was thinking about. Maybe along the driveway coming up and along the parking lot, but maybe on that north side where Chris wants to make the turn. Although he said a curb is fine because you can, go top of the curb with the bumper.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about it because I already talked to Jared about there definitely will be curb and gutter.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Excellent.
The one thing I wanted to point out on Jared's, this is not Maple Drive in front of this parking lot. This is a private driveway coming from Maple Drive. Maple Drive was vacated a while back. I'm not sure when, but on one drawing he says Maple Drive in our driveway.
Yes.
And then on the other one he shows it down closer to the corner of Mill Road and Maple Drive. It's the driveway is not Maple Drive. It's part of the property.
So this is a private road then?
Private driveway, so that the width requirements might be different than what he was talking about.
Okay, private driveway. Okay, I look at it as a private road, and then when you make the turn, that's your private driveway. That's
maybe
just me.
But I don't think it's definitely not a public road.
Okay.
Yeah.
hasn't been.
Okay, I did not research private driveway. I will have to do that to see if there's, you know, the minimum standards, you know, granted, you know, you're going to have two-way traffic in and out of there.
Yeah, we'd want it wide enough for that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so those are all my questions. Other Plan Commission members have questions or comments on?
I've got a question.
Sure, Rob.
Guys, if I look at page, what's page 94 in our packet, and I look at the top center of that drawing, I see the dumpster area, and then I believe I'm seeing two swinging doors to the right of the word dumpster. Am I correct? Is that a yes, Al? Okay.
Yes.
And then if I look above and to the side of the word dumpster, I'm seeing a reverse L-shaped object. Am I to believe, does that represent the enclosure for the dumpsters? Or what is that reverse L-shaped object?
Yeah, what that, yeah, it's the enclosure, and it's also part of a retaining wall.
Okay, so then my next question becomes, if I stay on page 94 here, I see that the side of that enclosure jutting out halfway into the 10-foot setback. And then when I look at page 97, which contains another representation of the same area, I see that reverse L-shaped object, the enclosure for the dumpsters, not encroaching out into the 10-foot setback. So my question is there an error on one of your drawings? Where do you really intend, how far out into this, do you intend for the enclosure to go out into the setback or not? And is it, maybe Bo, you can chime in, is it possible for an enclosure to encroach out into a setback like that?
It is not.
Okay, so then which drawing is correct?
Well, I never noticed that on Robert E. Lee's drawing, so I'm not sure what he did there.
Well, I think revised,
interesting.
So it should be pointed out that that dumpster enclosure needs to be within the setback.
So that's considered a structure versus
correct.
If we had a fence, would that be the same issue?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And maybe the dumpster doesn't have to be that big. We'll have to research that.
It has to be big.
We do have space on the south side if we wanted to shift the building a little bit, but.
So I think what they're looking at, so Jared, from what I understand, that was a question that we talked about a week ago. And I think Rob's looking at the one that was revised, because Jared did mention that about the setback. So I'm pretty sure that that's already been addressed.
Yeah, I don't recall it, but yeah, I mean, if we can't go past the setback, we can't go past the setback.
And also because the grade of the property, that gate can't open up a full 90 degrees because it'd be hitting that grade. So it has to stop at 45.
No, that's not true. The paving underneath the dumpsters will be, that's going to be dug into the side of the hill. There's going to be a retaining wall around that dumpster. So okay. Yeah, I mean, we'll have to look at the size of the dumpster requirement, and then whether we want to shift the building farther south to make sure that works. But yeah, I'm sure there's a solution to it.
Okay.
You're right, Steve, because that's how originally was going to be. You're right.
Yeah.
Denise?
Yes.
You had said you were going to look into driveway widths. Do you want me to state what the code says?
For a private driveway?
Yeah.
Or for a...
So it says driveways.
Tell me what page it's on.
Okay, it's in the code and it's on page 92.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, it's go to sub E, driveway locations.
Okay, that's on page 93, sub E. Are we under highway access section? Park.
It's under driveway widths.
Okay, page 92 is parking of vehicles in residential districts in my code.
Okay, on my code, you want to go to 66.0407.
Okay, that's a couple of pages.
Page 90.
Sub E.
94, 93, 94.
Sub E is for R1, R3, R4, and CS1.
No, but it talks about in business widths of driveways.
My code is different.
I have none of that.
Sub D, like in David.
Driveways shall not exceed 24 feet in width in residential lots and 35 feet in width in business lots. This would be considered a business lot.
Yeah.
So there's not necessarily, yeah, I knew that. It just, I didn't know what the minimum standard would be for two-way. I knew that was there.
Yeah, it says driveways on through lots shall be no less than 15 feet if they are one way and shall not exceed 24 feet if they are two way.
And yet Jared from Robert E. Lee said 26 feet when Janelle spoke with him today.
Yeah, because he said you take the curb into consideration.
Yeah, yeah.
But he was talking about private roads, not a drive.
Well, was he, or was he talking about public streets?
He's talking about public streets. It was the question that you originally posed.
Right, right. Okay, so
well,
we need some clarity.
I have a couple. I'm not done with the questions I had, Denise. If somebody else wants to jump in, I can ask mine later. If somebody else.
Go ahead, Rob.
Okay, so sticking on page 97 then, which it appears you guys are considering the revised drawing now based on my last question. Does our code say for a development like this that for every 25 parking spaces, only one handicap space is required? Because I see a legend here that tells me handicap parking would be marked by the wheelchair insignia, and I only see one space marked for handicap parking. And just visually, 1 out of 25 parking spaces being marked for handicap seems low to me or insufficient. And so my question, Bo, is that what our code says for a development like this, that you only need one handicap space for every 25 parking spaces?
Let me read it. Parking spaces for use by the physically disabled persons. All open off-street parking areas providing more than 20 parking spaces, except for parking areas restricted to use by employees only, shall provide parking spaces for use by motor vehicles which transport physically disabled persons in accordance with the requirements of section 346.503 of the Wisconsin statutes. I don't know what that says.
I can tell you. It's based on the number of units. And it was the same thing at Shoreview. We only had one per building.
See, at least one space for facility offering 26 to 49 spaces, or at least 2% of all spaces for a facility offering 50 to 1,000 spaces.
There.
Okay. Okay.
And that's state statute.
Okay, thank you. And then the only other question I had, guys, was on page 111. Last time we talked about your plans, there was discussion about several of us being uncomfortable with the idea of a multi-purpose bar and lounge area with food service and refrigeration and a swipe card for any owner's family or VRBO guest to come back at bar close or any other time and swipe whoever they wanted to party with into the lounge area. And then subsequently after the meeting, I think Al will recall when Bo and I happened upon Al in town, and it was right after the last meeting. And to my recollection, Al, you said you agreed with the discussion point I made during that conversation, and that you had to really review and revise and decide what was going to happen to change that area the way it was on the plans. But I don't really see much of a difference there. Can you just walk me through, you know, and then your letter to Bo on page 12 about making a statement about the space and how it won't be for public use. How would it, you know, are you still saying that everyone would have a swipe card and they could just swipe into that area whenever they wanted?
No, it'd be open. It would be open to only the guests or the owners. There's not going to be any alcohol. It's just going to be a common area for seating. There's going to be a pool table in the lobby area, fireplace, just simply a place to lounge. Alcohol would be just a headache, like I said before. And so that's not even going to come into it. Now, if somebody is having a drink, they want to come down and watch TV or play pool, well, that's fine, but there's not going to be any alcohol served.
So so then what does, on your drawing where it says bar serving, what does bar serving mean then? If it's
bar just meaning countertop bar height, counter.
Yeah, we're envisioning to be a place for catering or for small get-togethers if the owners want to have one.
Okay.
And so we're just offering that. And then during off hours, there's a roll down grill that comes down so that not anybody.
Those are details we don't need to know.
Yeah. Okay. So, but the purpose is it's a common space that's utilized by the owners and their guests.
And how do they get into it?
It's open. It's open to everybody. Once you enter the front door, it's open to everybody. You access the elevator coming downstairs by the elevator are using your key to get into the front door, which would be more than likely a card.
Or an electronic code.
Or electronic code. Okay. The last thing I want is any liability with alcohol being served. You know, it's just not necessary. And it probably won't even be used that much. I talked to Chris the other day, even about his lounge, and he's like, nobody uses it. So it's just an area for people to get together and hang out, but not going to have alcohol.
Not going to serve alcohol.
Going to serve alcohol, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that it, Rob?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Any other questions from other Plan Commission members?
No.
So there's some things that we need to get answers on. I guess the biggest question is, and I think that we need to make a decision tonight on, is pertaining to the height. And does the Plan Commission view that lobby area below grade not part of the height, just so there are no surprises when this comes back next month with all the information that we still need? Is there a consensus one way or another?
I'm okay with using the first floor as the bottom, the 626.
Okay. Nate?
I think it should be the average elevation of the footprint because it is coming out there. So it is going to have the feel on one side of it having, you know, more than 35 feet, but that would be my inclination.
Okay. What page did I have that on? Okay.
I have to agree with Dave. Below grade in building sales is below grade.
Okay. This was a test, even though none of you knew it. Okay. And now I can't find the note on what page it's on. But just as we address the Door Hotel, there is an averaging of when you are building on a slope, a bluff, something of that nature. And for the life of me, I have lost page that is on. Maybe it was in definitions.
Is it across the whole lot or the footprint of the building?
It is across the whole lot, 5 feet out from the building. Janelle, can you do a quick search for that, seeing I lost my page?
So what kind of credit do I get for that answer? I have.
Excellent.
Yeah. It's on building height. It's page 180.
180, building height. Okay, so building height. The vertical distance above the finished lot grade at the front of the building measured to the highest point of the coping of a flat roof or to the deck line of a mansard roof or to the average height between the eaves and the ridge of the highest gable, hip or gambrel roof. The finished lot grade shall be the average grade across the front of the building measured 5 feet away. The height of a stepped or terrace building is the maximum height of any segment of the building. Not included in the maximum height are chimneys, bell towers, steeples, roof equipment, flagpoles, and similar features, which are not for human occupancy. So we just have to do a calculation based on that. And Steve, Al, Robert E. Lee, somebody needs to get us that. I believe that you will probably be within that, but that is what we need to follow because you're building on a slope.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to propose that I'll make a motion to table because I think we need to still get some other information. I think we definitely need the utilities plan from Robert E. Lee. We need to determine exactly the minimum width for the private road / driveway, which is yet to have consensus on. The hydrant, then we'll be able to see that there is curb and gutter on the utilities plan, where all the utilities are located, how large the storm sewer storage is under the parking lot, where the HVAC placement is, and revise to make sure that the dumpster is within the confines of the setbacks. Did I hit everything?
What I have.
Yep.
Okay. All right, motion to table until next month.
Second.
Motion by Berto, second by Bell. All those in favor respond with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Accurate. Did somebody oppose? Okay. All right. Okay, we will move on. So agenda item number 5, discussion regarding your request from the Sister Bay Historical Society Board of Directors to allow the display of 3 of the buildings that were moved off the Little Sister Resort property at the corner of the past, which museum has been assigned an address of 10310 Fieldcrest Road. Thank you for whoever printed out, the county map on the placement, because the other drawing was almost not legible. Couldn't figure it out.
This one's pretty self-explanatory. I don't even think you really need me to go into too much. These were existing structures. They're just looking to relocate. X marks the spots on the GIS map.
Right. So what buildings did they move from Little Sister Resort?
Either Trudy or Bob Jischke are on here. Bob is. Okay.
Okay, here's the deal. We were going to get 3 buildings, 3 of the cottages. The deal fell through. Of course, it fell through after. So we now have a building that was up at Domicile. I believe it's Mr. Solinsky's side building.
Oh yeah, the grit.
And he has graciously donated it to us and taking care of all of the expenses of moving it down. So somebody said to me, is that going to be a problem? And I said, I don't think so, because we're going to put it right where we had the other three, and it's the same size. So instead of three, I've only got one for the moment.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that the cottages fell through. So this is Mr. Solinsky's, the granary that used to be on the Kessel farm.
Correct.
Okay. Oh, I'm so excited. I am very surprised that it did not share that with us during his presentation. Oh, yay. Let's make that motion.
I'll make a motion we approve.
Motion by Bell.
Second.
Second by Ward. All in favor, respond with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Oh, that made the Plan Commission very happy, I believe.
Everyone is smiling. That's grand.
Okay, zoning administrators report.
Yep, so I can run through this. So Dan Klansky and I over to the Pebble Beach property to take a look at the Fred and Fuzzy's bathrooms. Lance Crane has contacted me and kind of put a timeline on getting those bathrooms out of there. We did speak with the Devoit Moving Company about getting those relocated. He said it would probably cost to move them over to the other side onto our property about $1,500. However, we don't have a permanent structure or anywhere to put it just yet, a concrete pad. So I'm working with Dan Klansky on just temporary placement until the Pebble Beach Committee can come up with a plan for a parking lot layout. But we do want to capture the donation. So time is of the essence to just relocate that temporarily. So I'm working with Dan Klansky on that one. The other thing to consider for that is water and sewer connection. Obviously, we would need to find a new connection for that. So there's a couple of things that fall in line there. As far as permitting goes, there's been several single family home permits, fence permits, a few accessory structure permits, and 3 sign permits. I have 2 more on my desk I haven't finished just yet, which is pretty routine for this time of year since my time of being here. I did also want to update the Plan Commission. I know that Beacon came and presented some plans, preliminary plans for review, and they were approved. They have been a little hesitant just because of building costs to move forward, but in my last conversation with them, they should be presenting to us pretty soon with final plans and getting moving on that building. I've also been meeting with some other developers on some larger scale developments, including the Crane family for their developments, for their condominium development. So I would expect that sometime in August, hopefully, maybe September. The rest of my the rest of my report simply just follow up from other notes from the plan.
So before you move on to that, you did not inform the board about Marissa Downs 45 WIDA housing at the board meeting a week ago tonight. We were missing 2 board members, so there were only 5 of us there. It was approved by a hair. It was a 3-2 vote for that to move forward.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the dissension, if I may ask?
We can't talk about that. It was in closed session.
Oh, sorry.
But moving past that, the other follow-up that I just have, I know I did contact Goose and Twigs. I will be sending them a fine. There's no front screen on that dumpster enclosure there. I will follow up with that, just make sure it gets done. I've been chasing businesses about putting up these feather flags. There's been a few business owners that just didn't know that was in the code. I don't like to remove them. They don't fit in my car. So I just have a simple conversation with them and they usually take them down. I've had a few people pretty upset with that discussion, but they understand if it's in the code, it's got to come down. I'm also just working on the Plan Commission work session meeting follow-up. I know that's coming up soon, and there was a lot to clean up, and we wanted to get it as close to presentable as possible in the near future. So does anyone have any other questions for me?
Nope.
Okay.
Janelle, do you want to give us, do you have a rundown of things to be placed on our next agenda?
Well, you've got Al Goki's project.
Yep.
And then the Piggly Wiggly was all approved. Orchard
not
Corners.
depending on how you look at it.
I think the only thing from this meeting was the Goki project.
Yeah, I believe so, because everything else was approved.
Hallelujah, only one carryover.
Yeah, that's kind of nice.
Yes.
And a couple of nice donations.
Jim did jump back on if you want to thank him.
Jim,
would you like to unmute yourself?
Oh, sure. What's up?
We just heard from Bob Jischke, and I don't know if Bo had texted you to jump back on or not, or how you knew to chime back in, but that you have donated the granary and are paying for its move to their property, and we are all just very thankful and excited about that, because I believe the last time we talked about that, you were going to sell it or move it to a parcel that you owned someplace else. So this is just really huge for the history and the heritage of Sister Bay. And just to be transparent, the Kessels, where it came from, were my grandparents.
Oh, really? Okay. Yes. I didn't know that. Yes. Yeah, it just seemed like the better, plan. Then I don't have to worry about a second foundation at the new land, and they were very interested in it and very nice to deal with, the folks at the Historical Society. So it's good that it worked out for everybody all around. And in fact, the house is being moved to another lot in Sister Bay, not in Bailey's Harbor. So I don't know if you heard about that. So we'll still be there because WPS wanted something like $600,000 to raise the lines going to Bailey's Harbor. So,
oh, yeah. That's the problem with moving the barn from Little Sister Resort to the Historical Society, is raising the lines. Yeah.
What I think about $50,000 to take out a very small section. So I can only imagine the cost for that.
Right. And, and so that new lot that's on Fieldcrest, it would be a lot less, but even so, I just got to thinking, is it really going to add that much value to the property? It's more valuable to the Historical Society. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that being said, at 7:37, is there a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Motion by Gretzmacher.
Second.
Second by Ward. All those in favor respond with an aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thanks, everybody.
Oh, you're home by 8. You're home by 8, Bo.
That doesn't mean I'm leaving just yet.
Oh, okay. Well, I put on your running shoes.
Bo, can I have 2 minutes of your time after?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Janelle, can I ask a quick question? I made arrangements with Heidi to bring my computer in June and it didn't happen, and now it's not holding a charge at all. Can I drop it off this week?
Sure.
Everything's still on, by the way.
Oh, okay.